Hey guys, Chris here, and I'm a Ukrainian Canadian. Today is February 6th, 2024, and let's get to the news happening in Ukraine, shall we? So let's get to a very special operation that happened in the Black Sea a few days ago. So there's a video that came out today of the Ukrainian special forces blowing up Russian radar systems and stations in the Black Sea. And according to this Ukrainska Pravda article, this was done in the so-called Boyko towers, which are gas and oil platforms that are in the Black Sea between Crimea and Odessa. And so the Russians were using the Boyko towers to enhance the operation of the Mokhajir 6 UAV, which is a reconnaissance drone, which then the Russians were using for subsequent strikes with the Shahid kamikaze drones on critical infrastructure and civilians in the south of Ukraine. And additionally, as you can see here, the Russians installed a Neva B overwater object detection radar station on the platform. And by using this radar, the Russians were monitoring the situation in the northwestern part of the Black Sea. So you guys may remember, or you may not remember, that a few months ago in September, a similar operation occurred in the very same Boyko towers. So the Ukrainian special forces went in there to destroy Russian radar stations. And guess what happened a few days later? We saw a marvelous Ukrainian attack in Sevastopol in the dry docks, and the Ukrainians destroyed not only a ship, but also the Russian submarine. And then a few days later after that, the Ukrainians hit again a Russian HQ in Sevastopol, the Black Sea Fleet HQ headquarters in Sevastopol. So I think that this operation might be tied to something much bigger, to a much bigger upcoming Ukrainian attack on a large target in Crimea. I can only hope this is the Kerch Bridge, but it could be something else, of course. We can't really know for sure, but we know that today also the commander of the Navy of the Armed Forces confirmed that they aim to destroy the Kerch Bridge by this year. So I can only hope to wake up in a few days to see the Kerch Bridge completely annihilated, but it could be something else. But I certainly believe that this operation isn't just some random operation that the Ukrainians, completed. It was part of something much bigger that will happen in the future in Crimea. And you guys know again that the Kerch Bridge, for me in 2024, is one of the most important targets to destroy. Not just temporarily, so the Russians can repair it in a few months, but completely destroy it, so the Russians cannot repair it for many years. And essentially, they will have one crucial link completely gone. And they will have to now transport troops, fuel, and other logistics through a much more dangerous road in Donetsk and Zaporizhia within, Ukrainian HIMARS range, and also soon with the F-16s, the Ukrainians will be much more capable at hitting these Russian logistics. So we'll see what happens in the next few weeks, or maybe even days. Now, let's talk about drones. And hackers today found out the worth of Iranian drones that are being sold to Russia. So through this hacking, they basically hacked documents and emails between Iran and Russia that were essentially negotiations between both parties in terms of how, in terms of the price per unit being sold to Russia. And you can see that an agreement was reached with Russia that if Russia would order 6,000 units of the Shahid drones, they would pay about 200,000 USD. Or if they ordered 2,000 units, it would be $100,000 more, so around $300,000. So you can see that, of course, Iran is really taking advantage of Russia, because we know that the cost to produce a Shahid drone is no more than $30,000 to $40,000. So the markup here is massive for Iran. What is also interesting is that Russia has been transferring about 2 million in February of last year. They transferred about 2 tons of gold to Iranian shell company called Sahara Thunder, presumably as payment for services and goods. So it's interesting to see that Russia is paying Iran with gold, but we know that Russia produces a lot of gold. So for them, that's not a big deal. And also we know that, last few months we've been seeing satellite images indicating that Russia's building a massive plant for local drone production in Tatarstan of the Shahid drone. So most likely that the Russians are not willing to pay so much anymore, and they want to localize production to make it even faster to produce these drones and cheaper. So this is another very big target that I hope Ukraine could potentially hit this year. We'll see. But Tatarstan is far much further, and I think that the Russians took that into account when they considered places where to build the plants. For them, of course, if they build it very close to the Ukraine border, that's a disaster, and Ukraine could easily destroy these plants and factories. So this is going to be a very difficult target for Ukraine, but we never know what can happen this year as well, because Ukraine has drone capabilities. And today, another great initiative that was passed by Zelensky, he instructed the Ukraine Armed Forces to set up separate service branch of drone forces. So essentially, he wants to work together with the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine to work on shaping a new branch that is going to be the unmanned systems and basically drone operators, similar like the Air Force or the Rocket Forces and Artillery. So creating an official branch for drone operators. It doesn't even mean, it's not just the FPV drones or different types of drones that are flying, but also maritime drones. And we have seen how effective they have been at pretty much destroying 20 to almost 25% of the Russian Black Sea fleet in the last 2 years. And it's a great initiative as well, because I've heard stories of Ukrainian commanders sending Ukrainian soldiers that were very skilled in flying FPV drones to actually storm Russian positions, and then they died. So these skilled Ukrainian soldiers that could have been utilized as a support unit for this Ukraine infantry attack on the Russian position was just wasted away. And, because essentially these Ukrainian soldiers were considered as infantry and they were now recognized as a FPV drone unit. By creating an official branch, it will legitimize drone operators and make the Ukrainian forces far more efficient in combat missions. Because now you'll have a small FPV drone unit tied to an infantry. It's still, to be known how they will be integrated within the Ukrainian military, but they will be now official, and there will be most likely training being done to train more and more Ukrainians to fly FPV drones. So this is an excellent initiative. And we know that Ukraine is currently able to hold the line mainly because of its overwhelming drone advantage over the Russians. Yes, the Russians are building a lot of drones, thousands of them as well. They also have the Lancets, they have the Shaheeds, they have many different types of drones as well. But they simply cannot compete with the Ukrainian people's will. Every single day, there is a new fundraising campaign for thousands of drones throughout Ukraine. The Ukrainian people are giving up their last savings to fund these drones. And I've been seeing that myself, and I've been donating myself as well to different fundraising campaigns for FPV drones or different other types of drones. And we know that also, aside from that the Ukrainian people are donating millions of dollars per day for these drones. We also know that the Ukrainian people are some of the most skilled operators of drones. We've been blessed with hundreds of different types of footage in the last few months of just, the SBU units or different types of Ukrainian drone operators destroying Russian armor. And again, in my previous video, where I talked about Russia's defeat in Novomykhailivka, that is south of Marinka and Donetsk city, where basically a massive Russian convoy of armored vehicles, including T-72s, MTLBs, BMPs, was almost exclusively destroyed thanks to FPV drones. And they were picked one by one and essentially disabled first and then completely destroyed. And that was a big defeat for the Russians, yet again. So the drones are really game-changing. But yet again, I want to emphasize that drones are not the panacea for this war. Ukraine still needs ammunition, still needs constant flow of missiles and rockets and bullets from its partners. And unfortunately, that is drying up, which is making the fight much more difficult. I've already talked about it yesterday that very likely Avdiivka will be lost by the Ukrainian forces. Again, this is not a huge deal because you can lose battles, but you cannot lose the war. And Ukraine has lost battles, let's face it. But the most important thing is that Ukraine wins the war against Russia. And they can only win the war if it has a constant flow of weaponry from its partners. And we know that, unfortunately, the Ukrainian people cannot count on the United States anymore for the last 3 months. That has dried up, and now Europe is exclusively helping Ukraine with military assistance and financial assistance. So thankfully, Europe is still there. But really, the United States has to get back into providing that assistance as well. We know that that has been hijacked by the GOP, unfortunately, in the last 2 to 3 months. But either way, this is a great initiative by Zelensky, and we'll see how that gets implemented in the next few months in 2024. And last little piece of news I want to share with you guys, it's a feel-good story. And again, I'm not here idolizing billionaires, but I thought this was very important because the Buffett family is certainly one of the most influential families in the world. They have billions of dollars worth of wealth, and it's good to see that Warren Buffett's son, Howard Buffett, has been helping Ukraine the last 2 years with $500 million worth of humanitarian aid. And he's helped restore Ukraine's agricultural infrastructure, clear civilian areas and farmland of mines, replace windows that were blown out by bomb blasts due to Russian airstrikes, provide equipment for security officials investigating Russian war crimes, rehabilitated hospitals, and he's built and outfitted a rehabilitation hospital for soldiers and civilians. And he's also set aside another $300 million for 2024 for more humanitarian aid to Ukraine. So it's really important, I think, to highlight how impactful and positive this support can be for the Ukrainian people. And here I'm not, again, idolizing billionaires, but it's good to see that some billionaires are helping Ukraine. That is not to say, setting aside, other billionaires such as Elon Musk that are working exclusively for the Kremlin now, which is unfortunate. They still are good billionaires, or at least billionaires that believe in Ukrainian cause. I'm not saying that they're good, but I think that this help is very good for Ukraine. And as it's mentioned here, Buffett's $500 million contribution already is more than some European countries have provided in combined humanitarian, military, and financial aid. That's not to belittle them. It's just that, of course, the Buffett family is very, very wealthy. And I think that also it's not just highlighting how good of a person he is, but also I think he understands the economic implications of allowing Russia to win. This will lead us to World War III, without a doubt. We already talked about with China, with its ambitions with Taiwan, North Korea, with South Korea and Japan, Iran funding more proxy wars in the Middle East. It will create the right conditions for World War III, which can go nuclear as well. And that's bad for business and our future generations. We will not grow up in a good world and a safe world if World War III happens. I think that's very evident. We only have one planet, so we have to take care of it. And I think that the Buffett family understands that very, very well. So that's pretty much the video for today, guys. One last thing I want to mention is that Tucker Carlson, our favorite news anchor that got fired from Fox News a few months ago and became very irrelevant, actually went to Moscow a few days ago. And it seems now clear that he interviewed the Tsar himself, Putin, so he can feel a little bit relevant again. So I'm definitely interested in seeing this interview come out and see what Putin has to say. And I'm expecting, of course, a ridiculous interview with Putin feeling like he's the victim, that the evil West attacked Russia first and he had no choice but to destroy Ukraine. And I hope that this interview will age badly and Russia loses and Tucker Carlson ends up on the wrong side of history, which he already is. But I just want to pass on this piece of news because we should expect within the next few days or weeks an interview with Putin by Tucker Carlson. So we'll see. So that's the video for today, guys. I hope you enjoy my update. Please let me know what you guys think about any of the topics I covered today. A huge thank you for your support, and I will see you guys in the next one. Slava Ukraini!